Honourable Leanne Bell.
Mr Chairman, I'm not going to take a lengthy call on this. This is the sort of machinery for bringing into effect the new Commission. But I thought that I wouldn't let the opportunity go by to comment on Clause 26, restriction of compensation for technical redundancy, because what that identifies is that when somebody moves into the new Commission from one of the existing agencies, the Ministry or the existing Commission, and they have substantially equivalent employment, and that means substantially the same position and on terms of conditions that are no less favourable than those applying immediately before, on terms that treat the period of service with the previous employer and any other service recognised by the previous employer as continuous service. Sorry, and I left out the bit before, including any service-related redundancy and superannuation conditions. Now, the point that I just want to make is there's a whole stack of people out there in the private sector who get no redundancy when they're made redundant, and there was a really good opportunity that this House had recently to pick up my colleague Darian Fenton's private members bill, which would have provided for at least some minimum redundancy to apply, and I think what we're seeing reflected here is that the government is perfectly appropriately concerned about technical redundancy being picked up in an area where there is widespread redundancy provisions designed to protect people should they be made redundant from their position and aren't able to take up substantially the same position on ongoing conditions that recognise all their previous continuous service and that continuous service lasting, but not so for the private sector. In very few instances now do we see that. It's really only in those areas where there are well-organised, unionised workplaces where those have built redundancy provisions into their conditions of employment. Can I just say one other thing, because it is important, and I'd just like the government to reflect on this. In other parts of the state sector, there is a practice being developed in order to get around these redundancy provisions that are quite widespread within the public sector. There's a practice of trying to develop short-term, fixed-term contracts and then enticing people really to resign their existing position when they're being made redundant and then putting them into a fixed term contract. Now, this wouldn't stand up in a court of law and obviously would be challenged, but a lot of people, when they're feeling quite vulnerable and want to maintain some income, facing alternatively the redundancy and the not knowing whether they'll be able to pick up another job, I thought it was an ideal opportunity to actually simply just mention that this is going on and hope that the government will do something about it next time they have an opportunity. But I'd like to acknowledge my good friend Darian Fenton for the good work that she attempted to do in this area.